What's up, guys? It's Greg with BSOD Webcast, and I'm here today to talk to you about net neutrality. Now, this has been around for a long time, and it's nothing new, but there still needs to be more awareness brought to the issue. There are still a lot of people that don't know about it at all or why it's important. So in this video, I'm going to give you a broad overview of what net neutrality is and why you should care about it. So first, let's go over what an ISP is and how it works. An ISP is a company like Comcast that you pay to access the internet. You get on your computer and try to navigate to like youtube.com, and your computer is going to send a message to your ISP that says, hey, we're ordering data from YouTube. Your ISP is then going to send, or your internet service provider is then going to send your order to YouTube, and YouTube is going to say, all right, well, we see the order, this is the data that you ordered, and your ISP is going to deliver it back to you, and you're going to be able to view it on your computer. Now, this is compared basically to a delivery company. It's a pretty easy comparison. If I order an item from an online store, and I would pay the store for the item, and then I would also pay the delivery company to bring me that item. Now, in this case, an ISP is not only the delivery trucks. They don't only own the delivery trucks. They also own the roads or the highways that these trucks would drive on. So now let's get to the fun stuff. Basically, for those of you that don't know, net neutrality is an FCC bill that states that common carriers such as like telecommunication companies, airlines, buses, delivery companies, etc. have to deliver their content to their consumers without bias. Obviously, the bill is focused on internet, but we'll kind of get to that in a second. This means that large companies couldn't pay carriers to not deliver their competitors' goods. An example of this would be that Amazon couldn't pay off UPS to slow down deliveries from their competitors just to make themselves look better in comparison. This law is important because without protection from monopolies, it's a mathematical inevitability that they will form, which is a massive problem for capitalistic economies. This law is going to keep monopolies from forming because these companies cannot put other companies out of business solely by denying them access to their customers. Shortly after this bill was placed into effect, Verizon Wireless took the FCC to court, and they claimed that they were not a common carrier, even though the entire telecommunications business had always been built on the notion and the consumer's expectation to receive content that they ordered, which included like phone calls and text messages and data, all at an equal speed. Verizon won the case, which made them and every other telecommunication company, which are now technically considered under their words data companies, immune to the FCC net neutrality law. And this is when the inevitability happened. It's not even funny. Soon after that, Comcast did what any large company with a local monopoly would do. They decided to try to make more money off the exact same service that they had been providing. So an example, Comcast looked at their current broadband or virtual highway, and they saw that Netflix was sending really large trucks or really large amounts of data down their highway to their consumers' doors. This was taking up a lot of bandwidth or a lot of space on their roads, which means that if the traffic kept up, they would have to expand their road. Now, normally this is good because it would grow their business because of all the data that the consumers were paying them to deliver, but they didn't do this. Instead of creating a better service and expanding their business and creating more lines and a better quality of line, they went to Netflix and said if they didn't start paying a fee that they would artificially slow down the data between the consumer and Netflix. If Netflix said no, then Comcast would have limited that speed between the consumer and them, which would have caused their consumers to think that Netflix was slow, not Comcast. Comcast customers would have seen that all of their YouTube data and all that stuff was coming in at the right speed, but Netflix wasn't. The logical conclusion would be if my internet's working fine and Netflix not, the problem would lie with Netflix. This would have led to a lot of frustration. People would have unsubscribed from Netflix, causing a loss of revenue and the eventual close of the doors of Netflix. Now, Comcast also conveniently controls all of the television in that area. Remember, they have their local monopoly. So it was a win-win for Comcast. If Netflix went away, Comcast customers would simply pay more money to Comcast to watch their television that they provide. So Netflix paid up. They had no other option. Now, this is when the term fast lane came into play. Basically, the term was coined fast lane because businesses that paid the ISPs to keep their content getting to consumers quickly at the current speed that they're getting to it now would have caused preferential treatment over those who didn't. Those who didn't pay would send their data over a virtual speed bump, which would cause delays, while those who did pay the fees would have a nice, smooth, paved road. Now, this concept sounds like an ISP is actually laying down a better infrastructure for those who would pay, and that the preferential data would stay on that new infrastructure, and the people that didn't pay would stay on the current infrastructure. But that's not what happened. ISPs were taking the virtual highway and splitting it down the middle. Basically, they applied speed bumps to one side of the highway and kept the other side clear. Companies who paid the toll got the fast speeds. Everyone else got virtually limited on the speed bumps, and the consumer couldn't control anything. They couldn't tell their content. They couldn't tell their ISP, okay, I want this website at this speed and this website at this speed. They have no control over it all. The ISP makes even more money than they do now and are only slowing down the service so that they don't have to invest more in their infrastructure. Now, CEOs have been all over the place saying, oh, we don't know or we are not aware of any company laying down new fast lane infrastructure. That notion is absurd. What they're saying is true. Remember, they aren't creating new fast lanes by installing new infrastructure. They're limiting their current service and charging content providers money to stay at their current speed of delivery. And everyone else who hasn't paid or will not pay is going to get slowed down. Now, this has drastic effects on the future of the internet. New businesses that cannot afford to pay into the fast lane will suffer, grow up. Companies who can pay the ISPs to slow down traffic will slow down traffic to their competitors' websites. An example of that would be like Apple paying Comcast to slow down Microsoft's service between the consumer and the Microsoft servers. And it will eventually rise to controlling what content we see as consumers or are allowed to see. And that will work because anything that the company does not agree with, they can control our speed. If my website is saying something negative about them, they might not like it, and they're just going to slow me down to where I'm not even able to reach my consumers, and my consumers are not able to reach me. Now, normally one could just switch to another company if it was like a shipping company or something like that, but those who have ever tried to compare options for internet, there's really rarely any options. Each one of these companies work together to have local monopolies over their area so that they can pull stunts like this off, basically. It's almost impossible to start new ISPs now just because of this local monopoly effect. Example of this would be Google. They've been trying to lay fiber for a long time, and they're having a hard time with it, and they're Google. They're anything but small. So basically what I'm trying to do is bring awareness to this issue, and I'm asking you to write your representatives and tell them that ISPs are no different than other common carriers, and they need to be classified as such to prevent the control of information. Write them in full confidence, guys, knowing that you're right and that we don't take care of this now, and it'll become too late in the future. This was Greg once again with BSOD Webcast. I would love to see and hear what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.